Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by SurvivingBreastCancer.org. I am Laura Carfing, breast cancer survivor and founder of SurvivingBreastCancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. In this episode, we speak with a gal from Galway. Her name is Cora. She has a great sense of humor, talks to us about the gene mutation ATM, her travels to New Zealand and Australia, her experience as someone working with patients who have lymphedema, and so much more. She's full of great resources.
Knowledge is power, so the more knowledge we have, the better we are. My parents were the most wonderful parents in the world, but combined genetically, they kind of sucked. ATM. Most ATMs give cash, but no, mine gives cancer.
Welcome to the conversation.
My name is Cora Fahy, and I'm a woman surviving breast cancer. Originally, I am from the west coast of Ireland, a place called Galway. So I'm a Galway girl, like Ed Sheeran sings about. And I left Ireland when I was about 18, and I lived in London and Israel for a while, and then I came to America. It'll be actually 30 years in February coming up here in 2019, so I'm 30 years in America. Genetically, I was predisposed to having breast cancer. It is a genetic mutation I had, and my sister also had it. I had also the dense breast. She had dense breast and cystic breast, so I had been followed for about 10 years. So by a breast surgeon, I'd been going in for mammograms and MRIs and ultrasounds, and had the cystic breasts and had the biopsies and excisional biopsies. So I'd been going through that for 10 years. So I think that, so the timeline is, I think when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015, I actually, part of me almost knew that something like that was such a possibility with the history that I had and with my sister's history. So it didn't come as a huge surprise to me, but I did end up doing the genetic testing.
Yeah, I know when I went to speak with a genetics counselor, obviously getting diagnosed with breast cancer, this was my first time speaking with a genetics counselor. And it was eye-opening because for the first time, this is a decision to get tested and find out information about not just myself, but how it impacts family. And I think you really hit the nail on the head too when you were talking just briefly about your parents and genetically how it can skip generations or go into siblings or grandchildren, etc. And the choices of what to be tested for. I was tested for, I believe, a panel of 7 of the, I don't want to call them like the more popular genes, but you can get tested for so much. And I think it comes down also to a question of insurance and finances as well, and what's going to be covered. So I spoke with other women who got tested for 14 different types of genes or 28 different types of genes.
I believe mine was about 17, they said. And of the 17, this was the only one that was a changed copy. So yeah, so of the 17, this was the one. So so I told my genetic counselor, I was like, oh, ATM. Most ATMs give cash, but no, mine gives cancer. And she's laughing her arse off. She's like, but again, and that's part of how I've dealt with this is finding the humor in things. So I always try to put a bit of a spin on things to make it easier to get through. I am a physical therapist assistant with specialties in oncology rehab and certified lymphedema. And the interesting thing was I'd been certified as a lymphedema therapist since 2011. So I had been working with women who have gone through breast cancer and developed lymphedema. And right before I got diagnosed in 2015, I was signed up to actually take my oncology courses so I could work with the physical therapist in the oncology program. And then I got cancer. And my boss actually called me up, got over, and she said, Cora, you do not have to do this. This may be really, really too hard for you, to work with that population. You have, and I was like, oh, no, back the truck up. I am definitely doing this. This is something that I'll be able to bring something to the table that not a lot of people can, which is the experience of going through all of what my patients go through. And I work with patients doing lymphedema treatment too. So it's a big part of my life, not just outside of work, but inside of work too.
I've been diagnosed, I think, with, I don't even know if it's like staging with lymphedema, but I have like a very early onset of it. And I'm not wearing my sleeve right now, but typically I wear my sleeve and everything every day and do different exercises.
Are you doing your manual lymph drainage? Are you doing your massage?
I knew you were going to ask that. So I need to get back to it. I don't do it every day, but I see a difference when I don't do it. And I would love if you would like to share with our listeners who don't know what lymphedema is, since this is part of your profession and your expertise. I would love for you to explain like what lymphedema is, specifically with breast cancer patients. How does one get it, perhaps, and then if take it from there.
Well, lymphedema is the lymph system is a huge part of our body. It's actually one of the most important systems in our body that we don't really think about because it's our first line of defense. It lets us know if we have infection and it helps to deal with infection. And in lymphedema related to breast cancer, when women have lymph nodes taken out from underneath their axillary area or their chest wall, it basically impedes the flow of the normal lymph. So what can happen is the proteins and the lymph doesn't move, and so you develop swelling below where the lymph nodes were taken out. So that's why a lot of women have to wear the sleeves like yourself or have to do that manual lymph drainage. It's not that everybody gets it. It's women have gone through 20 years not getting lymphedema, and then 20 years out they can get lymphedema. But it's something that is very treatable and manageable. It is something that you learn the tools from a lymphedema therapist on how to manage that, on how to do your lymph drainage, which is a light massage, on how to wear your garments as needed, and on how to exercise to help manage that also, because exercise is really good for everything. So I work with a lot of women who have gone through this, and like I say, I've been doing it since 2011. But it's something that women need to be aware of, that there is a potential for that. So there are different ways that you can help decrease the risk of getting it. And there are lots of organizations out there that are a great resource online, and also just talking with your surgeon if you have any questions about the fact that something might be happening. Just talk with your surgeon or your doctor and get a referral to a lymph therapist. So but it's something I've loved doing, but it's also made me very aware of what I've gone through myself and the fact that I am also at risk for having it too. So
That's a really good point. I feel like with once you have your lymph nodes removed, it's you're doing all of these exercises and routines to make sure you don't get it. So you're constantly in this preventative phase. And then once you have it, if you have it, because it's not necessary, as you mentioned, you might not ever get it in your lifetime. But then once you do have it, then you're still managing it. So,
and it is once you have the diagnosis, you have it. It is not something that resolves. Like I say, it can be managed, but it is. I always used to think when I started treating women, and before I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I used to think, oh my God, how horrible. Somebody gets breast cancer. That's hard enough to deal with. And then I used to think it was very rude of God to give them lymphedema on top of it. I was like, that's just rude.
I never knew about this until I saw a lymphedema specialist. And I realized how wonderful it makes you feel just in general and all of the benefits.
It's like, again, it's a huge part of our well-being is our lymph system. And we don't know an awful lot about it. We're always encouraging our patients to drink water. The other thing I found, and I do it myself every day, is that dry brushing with the long-handled soft bristle brush, which is a very hard thing to say fast. Soft Oh gosh. But yeah, so that's been really beneficial for me doing that. And it helps to just stimulate your lymph system and get things moving. And it does feel good. It really does feel good to do that. So, but the other part of what I do is with oncology rehab is also exercise. And when you had sent me the email about, talking about different points, you said what helped you get through your treatments and whatnot. And actually, exercise was a huge part of it. I was fortunate enough to be able to work through my whole treatment apart from the times where I had to heal from my surgeries. But I exercised every day. And I'm not talking about running marathons or, biking up Cadillac Mountain, but it was just something small every day that I did. It was a walk, it was a longer walk the next day. It was yoga. It was light resistance training. It was just anything to get my body moving and help me fight this disease and help me fight the effects and the side effects of all the treatment for this disease. And I found it to be so beneficial and amazing. And I give presentations to doctors' offices to try to get them to refer patients. And my line that I say to them is, I can read all the studies that are out there, but I don't need to read the studies because I am the study. I did what they say in those studies to do, and I'm here today, healthy, well, able to run 5Ks, able to bike 50 miles. When I didn't mean to bike 50 miles, I meant to bike 25, but I took a wrong turn. But I ended up doing 50 miles and I actually could do it. And that to me is a testament to the fact that exercise does have major benefit for this disease and this illness.
Very well said, and so important. When all the studies and everything that you're reading, it always comes back to exercise, whether it's to fight fatigue, chemo brain.
Nutrition, we are what we eat. We are what we eat. So it's a combination of all of those things. When I was going through chemo, I was bald as a coot, as I like to say. And for a long time, I wore the bandanas because I didn't want to make my patients uncomfortable. And so one day it was, I don't know, it was Be Bald, Be Free Day or something. Like they have Donut Day. They had a Be Bald, Be Free Day. And I asked one of my patients, I said, would you be uncomfortable if I took the bandana off? And they said, no, you do what you need to do. And when I would work with my oncology patients, they would walk through the door and they would see me standing there, bald, just like they were. And their mouths would drop. And I'd look at them and say, yep, me too, but we can do this. We can get through this. And it made a huge difference to not just them, it made a huge difference to me. It fed my soul and it helped with my healing, I really think, to be able to do that with them. And again, I exercise with my patients. I go home at night sometimes thinking, why am I so knackered? Oh, that's right. I just did a load of exercise with like 10 patients today. So that was a huge part of what got me through all of this shite storm, as I like to call it.
And I definitely want to talk about your lovely sense of humor and the blogging that you've done. But before we get onto that topic, I just wanted to stress also, I loved what you said when you mentioned exercise and how you would take these walks and just to get out of the house, get the fresh air, and then the next day go a little bit longer. I think that's a really strong message where you don't have to run the marathon or sign up for a 5K. You just have to move and take that first step, getting out the door, taking a walk, and knowing and listening to your body, right? So there are definitely going to be some days where you may not be able to walk as far that first day or second day, but kind of setting these benchmarks to kind of get your body moving.
It was moving my body that made me feel so much better. And like you said, it does not have to be the half marathon or the 50 miles as I did on the bike. It just to be the moving. And again, like we talked, being in Maine and Acadia National Park, being out in nature is just so healing in itself. So
I don't know if this came up in any of your emails or anything with him. When we first started dating, he actually, when we went up to Arcadia, we were biking, and I didn't realize how hilly the region is. And then, I kid you not, he took me on the bicycle up Cadillac Mountain.
Hey, you actually went up, Cadillac? My God, very impressed. It's one, my goal next year is I'm going to train for the Dempsey Challenge. So that's where I ended up. I don't know if you know about the Dempsey Center in Maine. Patrick Dempsey, McDreamy, Dr. Dreamy. Well, who I got to meet, by the way. But his family have this center in Lewiston, Maine, where they provide services to people in the whole state of Maine can come and use their services. So it's massages, nutrition, it's help with financial issues. And so anyway, I do the challenge every year, and that's where I ended up taking a right when I should have gone left, and I did 50 instead of 25. So because again, the thing that I've also learned through this whole process is that it's the term I use more is survivorship. It's not just surviving the initial diagnoses, it's living with that diagnosis. And the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship, they say that survivorship is from the date of diagnosis through the balance of life. And that's, I think, what we need to be teaching people. And what I like to teach my patients is that you need to manage this through the rest of your life. You need to exercise, you need to eat right, you need to take your medication, you need to go for your checkups. It's something that is something you need to do for the rest of your life. Because as we know with breast cancer, it has a high recurrence rate and it has a high metastasis rate. So you need to be aware of it and on top of it. But I like to say survivorship. I'm really into that. That word is a good word for me.
So when we came up with survivingbreastcancer.org, the idea of surviving, it's this continual action that goes on.
I never introduce myself as a survivor. I always say I'm a woman surviving breast cancer because I think the same thing. I think this is, I have to live with this diagnosis and I have to manage my body to help hopefully fight against anything else coming back. But it's here, it's in me. It's my cancer. It's something I was born with. It was mine. So I need to work on managing it.
I know you also have a great passion for writing, and we came across your blogs, which were just hilarious. Your energy, I think, jumps through the screen.
I'll backtrack by saying I went to the Sisters of No Mercy for 12 years in Ireland. They're actually supposed to be the Sisters of Mercy, but they used to beat the crap out of me, so I called them the No Mercy. But they always used to say I was totally shite at writing, so I never thought I could write. And it's only from when I started posting on Facebook, and I kind of came out about my diagnoses on Facebook after I had told my family, my immediate family. I came out on Facebook and I basically let my friends, or my tribe as I call them, know that whereas I am the strongest woman that I know, I still needed support, that I couldn't go through this alone. So I just started sharing my experience on Facebook, and I would have people say to me, oh my God, you need to write a blog. And I'm like, what the hell is a blog? Is this a blog? Aren't I writing it? Isn't this the same? And they're like, no, you need to get it out to other people. And one woman in particular, it hit home with me when she said this. She said that when she was reading one of my posts, that she started to cry, and then she was reading further down and she started to laugh. And she said, I then knew that I didn't have to worry about you, that you were going to be just fine. Last year, actually, no, it was this year, the beginning of this year in January, I was going on a trip to Australia and New Zealand to celebrate my 50th birthday. And I thought, why not start a blog now? Because then I can document my trip and keep everybody up to page or on the same page. of my travels. And so I started this blog called irishcora.com, or irishcora.wordpress.com, I think it's called. Um, and I called it, I said it's a Galway girl's guide to navigating breast cancer and life in general. So it's just my take on what stuff comes at me in life and how I deal with it. It's not very organized, and it's not like some of the blogs I see out there, which are absolutely amazing and way more organized and maybe have more things on, like makeup and clothing for us going through this. Mine is just bleh, kind of, I just throw it out there. Whatever shite is happening, or shenanigans, as I say, I kind of just write about it.
Well, it's very
So it's,
real. It's very transparent. It's very real, and that's why I think it's so unique because you can. I mean, I didn't. We've never had these conversations before, but now I can I totally hear your voice coming through in your writing, and
that's what people say. They're like, I can totally hear you
yes,
when you read, and I'm like, I write exactly how I speak and exactly how I think.
right.
It's not grammatically correct, probably. There's a lot more swearing in there than most blogs would have. I think it is something that, again, it's been so therapeutic for me, and I figured, I'm going to just like put it out there, and if anybody reads it and they get something from it, great. If not, I'm getting something from it by kind of putting it down on paper. And before I forget, because I will waffle on about stuff, another big reason I kind of started doing this was, like you've seen on social media, the breast cancer community is huge. It is such an amazing community, and there are so many amazing women out there that have done so many things for the community. And one of them was the Dear Boobs Project. And I found this on Facebook, and I started reading it. I was like, oh, Dear Boobs Project, that kind of sounds cool. So what is it? And it turns out it's a young woman over in New Zealand who used to journal a lot as a kid. And when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she wrote a letter to her boobs before she went in for her mastectomy to say goodbye, and as a way of healing through the process. And then she came out of that, and her friend said to her, oh my God, you should let other women know this. This could be really therapeutic. So she started the Dear Boobs Project. She asked for women all over the world to send her 100 letters. So she got 100 letters from all over the world, mine included. And she just put out a book in October called the Dear Boobs Project. I have a copy myself, and I gave a copy to my breast surgeon, and I gave a copy to my plastic surgeon. They've put them in their waiting rooms. And it's 100 letters from women all over the world, Laura, who have gone through what we've gone through. And it was their way of healing. And I just thought it was amazing. She's an amazing woman. She's Emily Searle. And I actually got to meet her when I was in New Zealand. So when I went over to Australia, I also met a woman named Tina, and I'll butcher her last name because it's Deluhi. She'll kill me if she hears this. Tina. Anyway, I met Tina. So Tina started a company called the Red Fern Lingerie. So she went through breast cancer. Yeah, Red Fern Lingerie. She's excellent. You have to look her up as well. She couldn't find pretty underwear. She loved, sexy, pretty underwear, and she couldn't find any. So she decided to start her own company. And I got to meet her when I went over there in Australia. And then when I went to New Zealand, I got to meet Emily. And that's kind of where Emily helped me come up with the hashtag Boob Ambassador, which is my handle on Twitter and Instagram. Because I told her, I said, yeah, I'd really love to be able to go to all these different countries and different parts of America and meet these women who are doing phenomenal things, and then write it in a blog and just be able to just share my experience and share what they're doing, because it's so freaking amazing.
I forget who I was talking to, but your Instagram came up in our conversation.
Oh, really?
And because I think we were just talking about like humor and, I mentioned like, oh, there's this wonderful woman up in like northern Maine and she's got diagnosed with breast cancer and she's hilarious and like just going on and on, not referring to you by name or anything. And this woman was like, oh, the Boob ambassador. And so it was like, like you're famous. So
that's hilarious. Oh, that's so cool. Thank
yes.
you for sharing that. That's brilliant.
So is there a story from any of your blog postings that you would like to regale us with? Any like ones that jump out of you or your favorite moments?
Well, I didn't know if you wanted the one I did where it was dating when you're 50 with no nipples.
Yes, I think that's kind of the elephant in the room. We don't always talk about kind of dating and life after cancer. I think it's easy to assume, oh, your hair's back, you're back to work full time. Life just continues to go on. You wrap it up in a pretty bow, put it on the shelf, cancer is done.
I've been single for 5 years. My ex-husband had divorced me prior to me being diagnosed. So he divorced me in 2013. So I had actually gone on, Match.com because where I live. It's a pretty rural area. It's up there. Very seasonal. So it's full of people in the summer and completely a ghost town in the winter. So it's, hit or miss as to when you can meet people. So I did go online for a year or so. And then, of course, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So one story actually that I think I might want to just let you know about with the dating thing was the weekend I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I actually had set up 4 dates in southern Maine because I live up in where Acadia is. It's up there.
Yes.
So I broadened my search criteria and I said, you know what? I'll put it out down to Portland because it's more fish in the sea down there. And I'll arrange it so that if I do dates, I can do like 2 or 3 at the time. So I stay with a friend in Freeport, and then I would go, for a coffee or lunch or dinner or something with all these dates.
Very strategic. I like it.
I was like, it's efficient. It's not overdoing with the back and forth. So the weekend I got diagnosed, I had 4 dates set up. And then I got cancer. So I thought, okay, well, that has to go on the shelf because I'm going to be fighting cancer and that takes a lot of energy. So I'm not going to be dating. So I sent each one of those men an email. And to this day, I'm still friends with 2 of them.
Wow, really?
Because what was amazing, the response I got from all of them was, oh my God, is there anything I can do for you? 2 of them gave me their home numbers and said, if you ever need to talk, please call. And like I say, and then the others gave me their email addresses off of Match.com and said, please just contact me if you need to chat about anything, which I was so happy to have that happen because it gave me hope that there are some really nice guys out there. I mean, everybody's journey through this is very individual and it's very personal and it's very different. What's good for one is not good for the other. And I think, again, we all make those choices. But I've found some women in my life, too, that I know they don't really want to be involved. And that's their right. And I would never force it on them. But I find for me, and I think you probably do, too, that right now in our lives, this is what we need to be doing.
Cora, I cannot thank you enough for joining us on today's podcast. Your stories, your sense of humor, your expertise. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you everyone for listening to our show. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast are from personal experiences and are not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always contact your medical care team. If you're looking for specific topics or would like to be a guest on our show, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. Until next time, keep on thriving.